Hello and welcome to Buying and Beyond, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of retail buying. We're Kate and Linz, and together we have over 30 years experience in retail.
We'll be talking all things retail buying and beyond, so grab your drink of choice and come and have a giggle with us.
So, hi, today we're joined by Audrey, one of the founders of the Polyfloss Factory. The company's main goal is to reduce plastic waste and to transform it into a valuable and unique new resource. We have a huge interest in sustainability, as we've discussed in many of our previous episodes. So Audrey's business is incredibly fascinating to us, and we cannot wait to talk more about it. But first, hi, Audrey, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Audrey.
Thank you for
So nice to
joining
meet you.
Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really excited.
So let's start with a bit of a background about you. So if you could tell us your story, what is the Polyfloss Factory exactly? How did you get started?
That's a really good question. The Polyfloss Factory is maybe 13, 14 years old adventure. We met in college. It was a graduation project for a joint master called Innovation Design Engineering between Imperial College London and the Royal College of Art. Very exceptional master where they bring different background. In the cohort, I met Emile, Christophe, and Nick. So three guys, engineers, material scientists, industrial designer, all geniuses, absolutely incredible people I'm so lucky I have met. And we got together. We had to do a group project to graduate. We got together because we're all weird. And I think we had this chemistry that was inexplicable in the team. It was no hidden agenda, not like we wanted a startup, we just really get on with each other really well and curious about each other's skills. Mm-hmm. And turn out it started a big family story because we're still together today. So, for a startup, it's a very, very long life together. Our families, our partners are in it in a way or another. So, we wanted to make a magic machine that can change plastic waste into something new.
Amazing. And you talk about them being engineers and being super, super genius. Now, I happen to think that you're super, super genius too. And you initially trained in fashion. So you came with a very, very different background. You've worked as a senior designer in several companies, which you have to tell us about, and tell us about, how you got started in that and then how you've then pivoted into this Polyfloss Factory.
So I did train as a fine art artist and a fashion designer in Paris. So I was really lucky to get to study in that world. It was a long time ago, though. I trained fully as fashion designer, pattern cutter, illustrator for fashion, so the full package. I did only work for a year, to be honest, before I pivoted quite aggressively into engineering. But I did work in haute couture, so I had the amazing opportunity to work for Jean-Paul Gaultier and Alexander Mcqueen. So I was very lucky in the difficult world of fashion. I got really good position in a way. All, like small internships, small assistant jobs, but enough to be in the Mcqueen Plateau Atlantis 2010, which was one of his most beautiful collection, unfortunately, before he passed away. So I've seen, the beginning of really digital embroidery, the beginning of 3D printing, all this new technology happening in fashion and immersive fashion show, because his fashion show, I have goosebumps just talking about it. So I learned discipline and beauty and rigor, and it was really hard work. So much hard work in detail, attention to details. There was no mistake possible on the catwalk. Unfortunately, that's also where I realized that that's not what I want to do. It was a beautiful world, but it's pretty much the same every 6 months, 4 months with all the fashion week collection and all of that. And I was very creative, work really hard, but I can do better with my creativity. Can I help people instead of making beautiful dresses for the elite of the 1% of the population that I don't particularly wanted to support more. And I heard about the word industrial design. Like, not sure what it was, but moving from fashion back in the day, so I was 24 years old. People were telling me I was already too old. You don't change career like that. Well, fashion designer will do in engineering and industrial design.
Too old, 24.
Yeah, it was very harsh, It's like French education is quite strict. So when you choose a branch, stay in it. And I was like, okay. So I did try. I got so much help from my friends that were in industrial design, product design, try to explain me. At the time, I was going through a lot of medical appointment with my family for someone that was really ill in my family, and made me realize designer can do something for that, right? We can design to help people, medical or not medical, but I want to get in that world.
It doesn't have to just be something beautiful.
Exactly.
You can
It could
design
be
something that actually functional or supportive.
exactly. And not for commercial purposes, to make more money in a capitalist world, because fashion just feed that. I was in the machine that feed capitalism basically, and mass consummation. And after a year of fighting, trying to get into school, I got a space in that double master that says they take everyone. So I apply. And
Did you
they
say
choose
that you
me.
were the first person from like a fashion
Yeah,
background they
I
had
didn't
ever?
know that though. They told me after. like yeah, it was a bit I didn't speak English either, so I did apply to that master being like terrified and so excited. I was like, imagine an interview with like 6 male engineer, all British, and like, what are you doing here? We work so hard as engineering. Like, I just finished fashion week. Like,
Yeah, there's this French girl from fashion. I'm a fashion French girl and I'd like to do some engineering. Like, yeah. You must have
so
felt
it's
like you
quite,
had to kind
That's
of prove
brilliant.
yourself.
I don't know. I was just terrified. But I thought, like, when you have this fire that you can't explain. So like, if you don't let
Yeah.
me in this year, I come back the year after, and the year after. No, I don't have the money to pay for your really expensive school. I find the money, and I got a bursary at the end, so I did get in. I could afford it. And yeah, I was the first one in 30 years to enter the course with a non-designer, non-industrial, non-engineer background, with a graphic designer too. So we were, the wild card, they called us, to see if we can survive in the environment. And we thrived. We survived. We both still alive. Everything's fine. And yeah, so that triggered the rest of my life story, really, and zero regret. Absolutely no regret. So yeah,
So you
Brilliant.
met, as you say, on a master's program. So it was
yes, I
Innovation
did.
Engineering Design at the Royal
Yeah,
College of Arts and Imperial College. And you're
yeah,
also now a teacher there yourself.
I am. I came back to the mothership.
Yeah.
Um,
Impart your
yeah,
knowledge on others.
yeah, I think they called me a few years after graduation. They called me back for my experimental background and the ability to create and have a really high level of creativity without the science rigor in it, but just pure creativity. And when you start, you do one day here and there, and then it ended up being a 4 days a week contract. And I love it. I absolutely adore my job. So I teach in Imperial College, of course, in the Dyson School of Design Engineering, but also still at the Royal College of Art because it's still shared. I run the second year part of the program now. So it went from being a tiny tutor here and there to running the second year and the graduation program, which is amazing. I love it. Like, the students are absolutely incredible, so much fun, and the staff, so much knowledge and exposure to the future and innovation in any domain, really, from medical to engineering to AI. So it's a
It's
great job, and
fascinating
really,
to be at the forefront of it all.
yeah, no, it's great. It's scary too, because you see the projection on our future as humanity, and you're like, ooh, because it's
Yeah.
not gonna be good. But you give hope too. That's the thing. That's one of the things. What I really want from this program is hope, not necessarily solution, but hope for resilience in the world we are facing and changing every day dramatically at the moment. My students are the trend, and they are finding really positive solution and hope for new social enterprise, new knowledge sharing in the world, rebalancing privileges, knowing we are in a very privileged position. And I really like that in this department. There's no arrogance or trying to impose something on anyone. It's trying together with the rest of the world to find positive change.
They probably have a different sense of hunger as well, don't they? In the sense that there's a lot more, we need to do a lot more, a lot quicker because there's a real issue out there. So it's not oh, let's just take this on and see how it goes for 20 years. It's like, no, we've got to find a solution now. And there's that kind of, there must be that real sort of passion.
Emergency. Passion and emergency and awareness of the political, economical climate. I guess it's a little bit different to my generation. I was the generation for mass manufacturing, new engineering, this one is they have a little bit of a different angle. And this sense of emergency, I think, is really amazing, and self-awareness about where they are in the world. So I learn so much from my students every day. So I really love, and very complementary to Polyfloss, of course. I can bring the experience from the Polyfloss Factory into my teaching.
Brilliant. Definitely. Now let's take it back to Polyfloss. Let's take it back to Polyfloss. Polyfloss, what am I talking about?
It happens a lot.
So it was founded in 2012. And so you spent 6 years then since developing the technology, and you've been using it for educational workshops, exhibitions, you've been testing it. Now, talk us through those kind of 6 years. Did it all kind of fit into place? At what point did you kind of come up with the name? What does the name mean,
I think the name was part of college, to be honest. Polyfloss Factory are almost always been there. It came up, Candyfloss, Polyfloss, polypropylene, Polyfloss. So it came around quite quickly for the branding. And we've been supported by one of my partner's wife that is a graphic designer. So she was there for the birth of Polyfloss. So it went quite naturally for the branding. People do think we own a factory. We do not have a large factory. That's really not the case. So we have a very small, humble factory, which was fun. And I think the 6th year, first is graduation. So we started even before graduating. So Polyfloss got a lot of press during Milan Design Week 2012. And we were caught off guard. We had no idea what happened. You're 23, you're 24, 25, you don't know what's happening. There is a wave of media taking your project, pushing you around the world for exhibition. No idea what a startup is, what does that mean, what the consequences, none of us had jobs. So quickly we had to find a job because startup is a very expensive hobby. We didn't have the funds for it. So we went on a tour, a bit a band, a rock star that just starting with a new debut album. We went on tour, but literally driving our own machine around. We slept in the show space at some point because we could not afford the Dutch Design Week. So we slept in the show space with the machine.
Were you allowed?
Dutch Design Week. It's 20.
We did it.
We did it. We were 20 RCA ex-students with no money. We rented the warehouse in Eindhoven, and we just exhibited, built the whole show space ourselves. All, slept in that tiny space next to our machineries. So we went to quite the extreme to get Polyfloss out there. And we did that for a few years, to be honest. It's quite extreme condition to exhibit everywhere on the planet as much as we can. So...
And what sort of plastics do you work with?
We started with polypropylene. We spent a lot of years developing polypropylene, which is, your usual garden chairs, container for your food. Polypropylene is literally all around you. I'm sure you have some, or you're wearing maybe some of it. And then we started developing PET simply because of the demand. So PET is your plastic bottle, also food container, meat container. Most of humanitarian aid is using PET for packaging everything, medical device. Actually, a lot of medical devices are also made in polypropylene high grade, which is also single-use plastic for medical environment. So we started with the biggest demand that there is on the planet. We do not work yet with the rest of the plastic. We will never work with anything with styrene in it. So ABS, for example, unfortunately, we won't work with that simply because the fumes that emitted from burning that plastic are extremely dangerous. Mm-hmm. We don't have the facilities and the knowledge for us to process that plastic yet.
I mean, really, that just needs to stop being produced from
those, those packaging
little
you have for the little polystyrene balls. It's a really big problem, unrecyclable.
I worked with a retailer actually that stocked quite a lot of it because a lot of people would use it as like a base product. And it was a really, really, really difficult one because it was a bestseller and it made the company so much money, right? Yeah. But environmentally, awful. Yeah. Awful. There's nothing you can do with it. And so actually they just made the decision to make a stand on that and just say, do you know what? Yes, that's going to cost us, but we just need to, for the good of the environment and social conscience and everything, we need to get rid of it. So they made the decision to cut and get rid of it. And it was totally the right thing to do for the retailer. What I would say, on the other hand, though, that made it a little bit difficult is they then challenged the buyer as to how they were going to make up that money. Yep. That's a really difficult position to be in. Yeah. You know, there wasn't necessarily the support, I wouldn't say, to say, well, how are we going to help you make up the money? But that's really interesting, isn't it? Like, you need to make these conscious choices. You need to follow this kind of agenda where we're making things better for the future and cutting out products that don't work anymore, that are damaging the environment. Yeah. But there is then a huge pressure on a team within as to how they're going to make up those sales, because at the end of the day, it's money, isn't it? Retail's money.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. It's always money.
So essentially, you've invented a machine that's inspired by the principle of Candyfloss making, and that is to recycle plastic waste.
Correct.
So your technology turns the plastic waste into a fibre that can be used for insulation, packaging, textiles, moulded plastic pieces. Now, we are most interested as buyers in how the technology can be used within the retail industry. So whether that's clothing or accessories or homewares or hard goods, etc. So what would be your recommendation with using it or applying it within the retail industry? Would you be looking to kind of work with large retailers?
So we are interested in retail. We've been approached a lot before, mainly for packaging, of course, because like you said, so for example, polystyrene, how do you replace polystyrene? There is solution with wool, with other fiber like nylon or recycled polyester. So we could be one of those, of course. That's something we are looking into. We are prototyping at the moment new technologies for packaging that could have the shape of polystyrene. They are really lightweight type of bricks. Yeah. So condensed but light. And we can recycle it because it will go back in our machine, basically. We are interested in creating closed loop system, of course, using the waste of the retail company. That's where we will be more interested. One of the challenges we'll have is for quantity, of course. So Polyfloss currently has a machine capacity of 10 kilo per hour, which is 100 kilo a day for a normal, respectful work day. And we are working toward a bigger machine and actually a smaller one too. So to move toward industrialization and serve to larger retailer, we need to go to the next level, right? So we are working toward all of that to answer the need. And of course, it will go from packaging, textile, interior textile. So the clothing industry, not yet, simply for the quality of the thread we can produce, which we've been drastically improved in the last 6 months. The polyfloss do look like Candyfloss. Like there's no question. You actually can mix up between both of them. If you put the sugar next to the plastic, you
really tell you don't want to make that mistake.
Maybe not. Well, the sugar one is kind of sticky. If you put your hands on it, it gets all like, polyfloss doesn't stick. So, and doesn't smell sugar, it smells plastic.
So definitely touch it and smell it before you taste it.
Before you eat it, yes. I'm not sure you can digest that. so much. It probably doesn't taste nice either. So I think, and we are an easy insulation because we actually can touch it. You know, a lot of like insulation, like glass wool or work wool, is something you don't want to put your hands on. You have it in your house right now. You know, it's all around you, polystyrene insulation or glass wool. We could replace that, but the scale and the price will be the problem. So
That's
at the moment
incredible,
we are,
though, that you've managed to create something that will replace something like the rock wool or the glass wool that you put in to insulate a house. Like you've actually got that kind of that grading that means that yes, it will 100% insulate your property, and it's all come from recycled materials.
Yeah. So we're
exactly.
using it in the walls rather than putting it in the ocean.
Exactly. And we have one proof of concept, or at least in the UK, in a certified UK building. We've been insulating on the Dorset Architecture Association School of London. They have a Dorset campus where they build their own building. And we insulated a student loggia in 2013. The building is still here, fully certified, fully fireproofed, all the proof, water, bacteria, all of that. So it can work. We have exactly the same insulation value as glass wool and work wool, without the labor intensive, energy intensive that can represent literally rock wool. It's literally rock that you turn into wool. So you can imagine the process behind that. The problem is matching European pricing at the moment is impossible. So we are not in this market yet, and that's why we established a different market for emergency shelter in humanitarian aid. So we find a different market. The safety problem is still the same. Certification are still in place, fireproofing, everything is safe. It's for semi-temporary housing, which is a different regulation, basically.
Wow. So was it
deviated from retail.
Was it in 2018 that you teamed up with NGOs to kind of explore the potential of using that with its humanitarian context? So
Exactly.
what kind of examples of that kind of work could you share with us?
So that was actually a really groundbreaking discovery. We met someone on one of these exhibitions during our world tour of Polyfloss, and someone found us on Newcastle Maker Fair of all places.
Oh, wow.
Said, hey guys, do you want to shortcut the humanitarian aid delivery system? Like, what? I said, you can make insulation on site. There is no insulation in refugee camp and a ton of waste. Can you guys take your machine over there? Like, wow. And that was it. That was the calling we've been waiting all those years. And it was the obvious answer. It's not the easy one. And one day we signed a research grant with Innovation Norway. It's one of those amazing fundraising systems for humanitarian aid innovation. They took the biggest risk ever. They just want return. They don't want return on investment. They want impact return. They want you to have impact on the planet, not a cash flow. And they took the risk on associating Polyfloss with Engineers Without Borders Norway and Field Ready Turkey. So 2 NGO, 1 private company that is Polyfloss. Together, we had the job of having 2 to 3 years to create new winterization system for the humanitarian aid world, while recycling plastic and creating circular economies around the waste. Huge challenge, absolute panic when that happened. Turned out to be the most amazing journey we ever had. And we had immense chance to work with those 2 NGOs, incredible people that we still work with today. So the grant has stopped, but we are still friends and we still collaborate and help each other on different work. The installation that we've been working was mainly for the northern west part of Syria, at the time was called northern west Syria, to insulate a small refugee camp. So we had a few weeks to use a ton of plastic to recycle into Polyfloss and turn into those insulation systems for refurbished temporary houses. So before the cladding, so you have the bricks, Polyfloss, cladding. And we did that. So it was a long research process, obviously, before it happened. It was right during the pandemic, by the way. Great timing. We signed the grant just before the lockdown. But we kept going because Polyfloss have their own workshop, so we didn't break any regulation or anything. So we kept improving the machine until we got free to travel to the south of Turkey, where our colleagues, Field Ready Turkey, are, and a few kilometers from the Syrian border, so we could deliver to Syria. And we recycled 1 ton of plastic in 4 weeks for one camp, insulating 13 houses, and it worked. The temperature, the people living inside could stop the heating without paying crazy amount of bills for energy, and saving the energy inside, and actually have warm, dignified houses.
Fantastic.
Wow. And so you were able to transport the machine over.
Yeah.
And so you were
Actually,
able then
it's still there.
It's still there?
Yeah. It belongs now to Field Ready Turkey. It's sitting in a workshop in Gaziantep University. So Gaziantep is one of those very industrial towns into south of Turkey, really close to Syria. And our teammates have the machine now. And for example, it allowed them. Sorry?
Trained up? They've all been trained up?
Yeah, they're all trained up. They're all engineer, incredibly resourceful anyway. Barely anything to teach them because it was an amazing relationship. We went a lot to Turkey. I spent quite a lot of time in Turkey during the pandemic also. When we had the right to travel, again, no regulation broken, but really, really interesting to be there at those times. And because the machine was there during the last earthquake, Gaziantep and south of Turkey has faced, they could make insulation just the weekend after the earthquake to make temporary housing in the center of Gaziantep for people that had to flee their own house, basically.
That's incredible. So they're utilizing like your machine, and then they're also sort of using the materials and all the waste around them to help make this solution.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. So you're giving people the opportunity, I guess, to take ownership of their waste.
And that's exactly the word we use. So Polyfloss, we are a machine at the beginning, but the machine is a small part of the project now, actually, because we feel that we are selling circular economies around waste. And like you say, a lot of countries have different regulation or no regulation around waste, or no waste management at all. And we give them a solution, of course, to be shared with their knowledge of the local knowledge, what's happening in the environment, what's happening to the culture over there, what is needed. It's a solution they can adapt to the need on site, and mainly it's creating jobs around waste, job opportunity for anyone in the area that wants to work on it, an educational tool also that can be taught in school, and simply a new material for insulation, construction, object, whatever is the need on site. So we never impose anything with Polyfloss. We always study with the client. If you get the machine, what would you like to do with it? What is necessary? Some clients just know what to do, and there is no explanation. So we deliver the machine and the technology and the knowledge that comes with it. Sometimes we co-design what could be possible on site with the client, which is really interesting. To have this knowledge exchange with a different part of the world. If that makes sense.
In terms of using sort of like the plastic and finding the raw materials, because one of the things that we talked about just earlier, and you were saying, is about the cost of things, and one of the biggest issues that we've always found as buyers is, we want to work with recyclable materials and more sustainable options, but it's often the cost. So you might be offered, and the stances of the retailer is that we're going to go, we need to make sure that X% of our goods are made from recycled materials. And as a buyer, you're therefore always tasked on making sure that you are sourcing those recyclable options or those more eco-friendly materials. But then it always comes down to price. And you find that actually the virgin material, the original material, the new product, the new material is often a lot cheaper than the recycled option. So how expensive is it to use the Polyfloss machine? As we keep saying, it's plastic, old plastic that we're recycling. It should be free. but what are the kind
Could
of
be.
like barriers?
So I think, first of all, it's a context-based problem. Every single country has different regulation. Like, for example, in London or Paris, recycling systems are not the same in every borough, which when you think about it, country like the UK will have figured it out, or Europe, but not at all. Also, only 10% of your plastic waste is actually recycled. The rest is buried or incinerated. So just that, there is the myth around recycling, which is like greenwashing yourself, or like, oh yeah, I use packaging, but it's going to be recycled. Actually, not so much.
That's a
The
shocking
problem,
stat, is only 10% of
sorry,
it is,
I know
isn't it?
it's shocking, and nobody wants to look at it. But
The responsibility.
It's the responsibility, and part of the responsibility is the northern part of the hemisphere that has this lifestyle that we have that costs the rest of the world for different history reasons, post-colonization, post-industrial revolution. All of that has reversed the world in a way that this part of the world lifestyle is extremely expensive to the environment. And not just the environment, but suddenly the climate change affect them or other people inequally. But then now, it has a cost, because the problem is sourcing the plastic. Let's say for plastic waste, we're going to take it, is sorting it out, cleaning it to repurpose it. Just the labor-intensive part of this is complicated and has a cost. When you can just extract the oil for petroleum, put it in the factory that is 1 million years old, knows how it works, it has no cost, it doesn't block the machine. Plastic that had a life and is mixed up with grease, mixed up with other particles, they can change the molecular part of the plastic. And mainly when we recycle, we think we recycle. It got mixed up with so many stuff.
Yeah.
How do you
And
sort
you
that
need it
out?
to be clean plastic, right? To be able to
Has to
recycle it,
be
it needs to
clean.
be clean.
Any polymer is going to have the same rule. Recycle or virgin is the same rule. Simply also because polymer has different melting temperature, and to transform polymer, you need to bring them back to a liquefaction part of their state. They have to be liquid to be injected, to be roto-molded, to be transformed. They have to be liquid most of the time. Therefore, cannot be mixed up. Otherwise, it will be so much easier if you can just make a bowl with all your plastic packaging. But it's not. And some of them cannot be processed at all. So the really thin, like envelope or cellophane or stuff like that, they cannot really be recycled yet. So there is also that it's really complicated to understand how to actually recycle.
So it sounds like there's so many different types of plastic. So it's not one rule fits all. And how many different types of plastics are there?
So there is 7 official. So if you turn your plastic bottle, there is a little number in a little triangle that is going to give you 1, 2, 3 to 7. Polypropylene is number 5, which is the one we use a lot. So depending on that, it's not always the case either, because in each family of polymer, you also have different grade of it. And sometimes they are mixed up. It's not always pure polypropylene. So sometimes we had rubber-ish polypropylene that have been sold as pelletized polypropylene.
Oh God!
It wasn't the case. It blocked the machine.
Oh no!
So because it's a machine, it does one job. It's it's melting polypropylene or PET at a certain temperature. If you don't have that, the machine is not going to behave, which is normal. Yeah. And any machine for plastic manufacturing will do that.
And how did you find so much about all this plastic, Audrey? Because you seem like an absolute expert now in plastics and melting plastics. Like, has it always been a passion of yours?
Definitely not. I learned the hard way. I mean, I obviously work with a material scientist that know everything about what's happening in the plastic molecular level. I learned the hard way by melting plastic. Literally, the first time I cut a plastic bottle and put it in a frying pan.
In a frying pan?
Well, in college, you're
like, not in my kitchen. In a controlled environment.
Yeah, I'm sure my flatmate at the time still have really bad memory of that project.
Oh no.
Yeah,
You're
and
frying an egg and alongside it some plastic as well.
Yeah, and the amount of floss in the washing machine at the time, we didn't control Polyfloss really well. All their plastic products that were slowly disappearing from the kitchen.
Where's my spatula gone?
Yeah, that went a little bit wrong. Sometimes some stuff may have disappeared from our flat.
Yeah.
To end up in the Polyfloss machine for testing.
Wait, testing. It's all in the name of science.
Yeah.
It's all for a good cause.
It was for a good cause. It was a lot of experimentation, basically all our knowledge together. So I was really good at experimentation with a lot of naivety into it. My teammates were proper engineer, material scientists, so they knew what things do, but not always have the courage to actually have the action of like, just put a plastic bottle in the frying pan, look at it, it's melting. It was not a brutal way of doing things, but together we were very complementary.
Yeah.
So we learned the hard way.
Action orientated, and they had the science.
Exactly, but all of us have a different courage for different things. My teammate can build any piece of machinery on the spot.
Wow.
Like it's just inexplicable. If I need something in the workshop, they're gonna go for like a few hours and come back, and I have the machine, and I'm like, oh, how did you do that?
Fantastic.
Inexplicable. So the team is highly experimental, which is great. But we did learn plastic the hard way. We read millions of research papers, watch all the documentary on plastic polymer, history of plastic. I made plastic with milk and vinegar. That I found a recipe online that is the original actual plastic is milk and vinegar.
No.
Yeah, before backlit. Yeah, I found that on like a children website, how to occupy children with science experiment or something. And I did bake that in my
Wow.
And so, we learn from the roots of the material, literally at the beginning, and slowly make our way up to understand engineering processes and why plastic does this, why does it melt, how do you make a fiber, understanding really engineering properties behind the Candyfloss machine. There is an incredible invention for sugar.
I love that the Candyfloss machine, but for plastic. It makes
it
so much exciting, doesn't it? When you talk about recycling and
makes it very easy for the consumer to understand, I think, as well.
I think so. It was
like everybody knows what a candy
you can relate to. I think it's one of the issue we had. So when we invented Polyfloss in 2012, recycling was a thing, but not too much responsibility taken. Why do you do that? Is it really necessary? It's like, well, there is no landfill, and climate change has been here for 70 years, so maybe we should do something about it. And we found that communication was an issue. Every time you tell someone I work in waste management, people look at that, oh, I don't really want to switch off. I'm like, why? So why would you do that in your own choice? Oh, it's just like, is that a job? Yeah. And what innovation? Why? I was like, okay, so we have a communication issue with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you said the word Candyfloss, but you said waste before, and people actually listen. Mm-hmm. So it was almost a branding technique of like, now you listen. I said the word candy, someone is listening.
Yeah.
It's like, and we were really colorful at the beginning. Polyfloss, I was lucky enough to find a lot of colorful waste in college. So we had all the colors. We made the entire rainbow in Candyfloss, Polyfloss. And it was very attractive. You actually want to go and touch it. And that's enough to attract people's attention and start a conversation about a serious topic. Yeah. And it was so easy to explain the engineering. Oh, it's a rotating oven. Instead of going in centrifugal force and like extrusion, really big word that don't sound really nice. If you want, we have the engineering side of the story, of course. But it was a great way.
Really easy to understand by just stripping it all the way back. And I think you said to me as well, you made waste management sexy. I loved that.
It's like that was one of the things with that, like, yeah, when waste management is cute and soft, obviously not the case. But for a branding point of view, I think it was softening the conversation that is really heavy that goes around it. And because we are in between the engineering world, waste management, humanitarian aid, the design industry, because it's still our background, how do you communicate with everyone and being taken seriously when you turn up with your little Candyfloss and she's like, but it does work.
Yeah. You want to make it relatable, but also make people realize that you mean business, like this is serious, this can actually do something, but also make it really interesting and make people sit up and take notice. So it's quite a lot that you're trying to do with just one product. But I do think like calling it the Polyfloss Factory immediately sparks interest of like, it does what? And as you said, like candy floss. I like candy floss. Plastic into floss. Oh, like I like recycling, or we're going to make the world a better place. I'm in, it's just stripping it right back to those kind of like core values, isn't it?
Exactly. Really good summary.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So what are your business sort of like growth hopes and expectations?
Great timing. So Polyfloss is like in a massive boost at the moment. So things have been accelerating a lot for us in the last few years. So we're trying to keep up with our own project. So first of all, the machine. Yeah, it's a good place to be, but sometimes like it's running faster than me. So I think the big machine, the medium, I'm going to call it medium machine, is currently for sale and is doing great. We've been installing in various parts of the world for humanitarian aid at the moment, because the machine is the perfect size for the need and transportable anywhere on the planet. So, and this, the humanitarian aid is really where our heart is, the calling of Polyfloss is in social enterprise for humanitarian aid. We are soon going in a great, interesting destination with the United Nations. So that was one of the biggest achievements of Polyfloss, is working with one of the biggest NGO on the planet. So that's really exciting. It's for the middle of the year. The machine is there's three machines currently in Nepal running their own life with the amazing community that we found over there. So I hope we're going to go back very soon, because we absolutely loved here. We have a big installation for schools in Nepal that is running right now. Very successful with World Vision International and World Vision Nepal. Which is great. We have few machines ready to go in new secret location for the year. 3 machines are getting ready to leave, which is exciting. But this year, we're going to have a new member of the family coming, because Polyfloss is going to have a baby machine.
We're having a baby.
We're having a baby Polyfloss. Thank you. It's really cute. It's only 50 kilo compared to the 130 kilo of the other. So the little sister is going to be a small desktop machine that is going to be for sale in the middle of the year. It works like the big one. It's just really small. And it's like a tester. It's like the size of a 3D printer. It's for the maker community, university, craft maker that work on a small scale. It's only a giant machine. So we are ready for sale soon. The machine is almost finished.
Exciting. And do you have a price point ready yet?
Not yet. We are working on it, so I can't release that price point. But
watch the space.
Watch the space. It's affordable, of course. We will be in the world of 3D printer size of machinery, easy to use, and we are so excited about it because it's one of the first time that kind of technology is going to be accessible to all this time.
Amazing.
So that's the big news for us.
What kind of retailers are you sort of thinking, or what's your ambition to what retailers would you love to be stocked in?
I think it's textile at the moment. We've always been obsessed with textile and making thread. As soon as you have a fiber, so you have your sheep, you take the wool out, you make a thread. Well, we have fluff, not from the sheep, from Candyfloss, and it makes an incredible thread. I know it sounds really strange, but it's a continuous thread that the Candyfloss machine can make at the moment. And we are working really hard on it, but it's really soft too. So we've been working on this quality of like when you touch it, it's almost like silk touching.
Oh wow.
Nice.
It took us a while, before it was a bit rough, a bit itchy, so it wasn't there. And we have new member of the team that are absolute genius at textile, have been working with us, understanding with the engineer how we can improve the thread coming out of the Polyfloss machine. So we can reach to this textile environment on a small scale to start with, with craftsmen, craftwomen, textile expert on a small scale.
Yeah.
To one day release the industrial size of the Polyfloss machine. That will be the large version of the machine. We already have large electronics and technological companies that are really interesting to support us for this investment. So we have big news coming soon. So we have different markets. We're going to have small, medium, and large sizes.
Fantastic.
So it's great. We are super excited, and we are also developing a new line of products that are going to come out soon. Also, cannot disclose too much, but it will also include clothing. So we are also very excited.
Great. Well, we'll have to get you back on the podcast once you've got your product range. Talk to us.
That would be great. Yeah, we are prototyping right now. I'm making the clothes myself, so I'm like going back in fashion for that.
Oh, fantastic. So you've gone full circle now. That's really lovely.
I know.
Turning to your root.
I know. Sometimes you forget, oh, wait, I can prototype this. I know how to make clothes.
I can do this.
I forgot.
I used to do this till 3 a.m. for Alexander Mcqueen.
Yeah, it's just...
Well, now feels like the perfect time, Audrey, for some retail therapy, which is our little section where you can offload about an incredible, hilarious, or just a story that you want to share of your time. Now, I know, and you know how I love this, I know that you did work with a certain Lady Gaga. Would you like to share more?
Yes, I did. Thank you for reminding me of that. I did. With a lot of friends from my master's degree, we ended up being hired in a costume designer studio specialized in fashion technology. So back in the day, it's 2013, be tolerant with me. Wearable technology was not very wearable, but we made it. So we made a lot of 3D printed dresses, mechanical corsets. We worked for the release of the art pop album from Lady Gaga. So we made a series of a lot of different costumes, colorful veins that changed color, all custom made for her. She had this mechanical bubble factory dress that she was wearing at the end of the Roundhouse concert in London. And we did make a flying dress in 2013. So that was really... It is like 6 drones. Again, imagine 2013, 6 large size drones that have been built onto a sort of dress, a very sturdy dress. Don't worry, nothing happened. But Lady Gaga didn't let the stunt woman test the machine. She wanted to be the first.
Oh, wow.
She's extremely courageous. She's incredible, by the way. She's an amazing human.
Yeah, I think she's really fantastic. She's
incredible.
Female empowerment, isn't she?
Yeah, she's actually really talented. It's not fake at all. It's like we were hearing her rehearsing in the Roundhouse when we were in the backstage finishing the dresses discreetly. And you can hear that voice and you're like, oh my God, she's right there.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was one side of my life at some point.
Incredible.
Brilliant.
And were you also a fit model?
Yeah, at the time I was the same size as Lady Gaga, so I had to wear the costumes.
Really?
You must have just been standing there like, ooh,
oh yeah, I was like paralyzed by fear. Like if you break anything, you're like, oh my God, she's not gonna wear it if I break it. So you're just wearing it to stop moving. I was at the backstage of the Roundhouse wearing that really heavy 3D printed dress because at the time 3D printing was not really lightweight, fully customized for her, but I could not sit because the dress, was not really meant for that. So I was staying like that in the back of the Roundhouse with this big dress waiting for her. I was like,
oh my gosh, the things you do for your art.
I know, or for her, anything really, It's like, oh, she can have whatever she wants. For Lady Gaga, anything.
Oh, that's
Oh,
brilliant. Thanks for sharing that with us.
No worries. It feels really far now. It's like a million years ago.
I bet. It feels like a really long time ago.
But it is so
Yeah.
nice to hear that how Polyfloss's journey is, such a long way, and that you're going to be touching multiple industries now, and even back to the industry that you started in.
Maybe you're gonna see.
Lady Gaga will use the Polyfloss machine to make her
I
neck.
would love that. I would love
Incredible
that.
If you're listening, Lady Gaga.
If she's, House of Gaga can invest, we would love to have that with us. Why not? We all love her too. So it's like, we'd be really proud. But, I don't think we exist.
Dream big. Dream big.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it sounds like you've got some really, really exciting things on the horizon. And we would encourage everyone listening to give you a follow, follow your journey. And we would love to have you back to tell us more about it when you're a bit further along. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and giving us a really good insight into the Polyfloss Factory.
Well, thank you so much for having me and showing our project. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Not at all. Thanks so much, Audrey. Speak to you soon.
No worries.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe and leave a review. And if you already have, thank you, thank you, thank you. We all need a bit of retail therapy, and this is the perfect time for you to offload about that super cringeworthy story. We would love to hear from you all, your funny stories and experiences, or even any dilemmas. And maybe we can help, or at least find someone who can. And don't worry, we will keep these anonymous and remove any names and brands. We would also love to hear from you on any topics you would like us to talk about. Please send all of these into buyingandbeyond@gmail.com or drop us a DM via our Instagram page @buyingandbeyond. Kate, are you a drama queen?
No,
Drama just makes things interesting.
that's true.
All these thoughts and opinions are our own and based on our own experiences working for a wide variety of retailers. These are all in the hope to entertain and educate, and not to reflect negatively on any place we currently or have previously worked.